back to ABC 7 at 7 tonight. Time for our roundtable discussion. Tonight we're talking about the future of healthcare, a symposium here locally, the Sarasota Institute and its mission. We want to welcome to our roundtable tonight futurist speaker David Houle. We thank you for coming out tonight. So let's talk a little bit first about this symposium. You were supposed to come on here tonight and give us a little bit of details about the symposium that was supposed to be happening this weekend, but unfortunately we are in the midst of a little bit of a health scare across the country.
Right. So I was scheduled to come on with the person my friend Jonathan Fleece, who was producing this. And so I want, first of all, that everybody know that the New Health Age of the 21st Century Symposium by the Sarasota Institute for this Saturday at the Neal Auditorium has been postponed. It will get rescheduled for the fall.
And that was because of coronavirus?
I was tracking this closely. I'm a futurist, and I'm all about the future of healthcare. So I saw that there were two people who might have it in Manatee and Hillsborough Sunday. I saw the governor declare a health emergency Sunday night. I saw him say that he was going to have a press conference Monday morning at 9:30, which he didn't have. And so since I knew that there were two people here, and last month I forecast that there'd be $1 trillion of economic loss to the global GDP, as a futurist, I got very concerned. So I called my friend Jonathan Fleece, who's the CEO of Tidewell, and you can imagine his patient profile, right? And I said, Jonathan, you've been producing this with me. I'm really nervous about this. I don't think we ought to do it. I want your opinion. I want your support, because Tidewell was also a sponsor, and he agreed that it was the right decision to make. So then I made that decision right around noon on Monday. Okay. Interestingly enough, just today, the HIMSS conference, Healthcare Information Management Systems, it's next week in Orlando, just canceled. And since I made that call, the reason I made it was a lot of members of the Sarasota Institute are over 65, and some have health conditions. Those are the two markers. And the president of State College of Florida, Dr. Probstfeld, and I felt that we didn't want to put on a conference that would put people's health at risk. Certainly. So I pulled the plug, and I'm really glad I did.
So in the symposium, what was the expectation, and what were you guys going to be talking about at that symposium?
Well, we're going to talk about the future of healthcare, and Jonathan's and my presentations were about what's next. And so part of that is the future of healthcare is based on DNA, big data, and technological intelligence. It's been shown that technological intelligence and big data can better diagnose diseases than doctors. But that's what alarmed me, was the fact that everything is connected. Mm-hmm. It's all about data. And when there's not data forthcoming for a healthcare emergency, a public health emergency, that's what alarmed me. So we were going to talk about that. We were going to talk about how you can predict with data. There's a gentleman who was coming on who, for example, if a loved one's being told you have 6 months to live, his data from all around the country said, no, you got 3 days, or vice versa. Okay. So the predictability of data, the use of DNA, the ever more personalized treatment of healthcare was what we're going to talk about, and also some new innovations and new technologies and new treatments.
Okay, and we're going to get to that in our next half hour, but in the meantime, talk to me a little bit about how important it is for communities, states, the country to be working together during this public health crisis for what some people are declaring it is.
For 15 years as a futurist, the thing I've been consistently asked about is, what about pandemics? Sure. So I've done a lot of research about that. And pandemics, simply put, is a public health emergency. And anytime you have one, there should just be the voice of science up front all the time, because you don't want panic, and you don't want fear, and you don't want people doing things they shouldn't be doing. And it's actually a collective endeavor. Like you and I fist bumped, right? Sure. We knew to fist bump, right? And I carry this with me. And one thing everybody knows, I'm a crew member of Spaceship Earth. I always carry reusable containers for drinking, right? So I'm not using plastic. And I just realized this week, this is really good for this. Only my hands touch it. Only my lips touch it. It's not like a dishwasher or somebody gives me something. So, I'm just bringing my preparedness here. But the point is, we should all know everything as soon. Transparency, rapid information, and proper presentation of that purely from scientists.
So quickly before we go to break, what is your thought process on the future of COVID-19? Quickly, if you can.
As I said, I forecast it's going to be a 1.2% collapse in the GDP. I think we've just seen the beginning of it.
Okay.
I mean, it went in, what, 2 weeks from 30 countries to 77 at the last count. And there's no way that this is going to be. The problem is that people have it and they don't know it. That's one of the things as a futurist I've been saying, is that a carrier who doesn't know he or she is carrying it is really dangerous. Think about if you're a carrier, everybody you've spoken to, shaken hands with, talked to in the last 2 weeks. So usually when we get sick and we know it. But to not know it and to have it be highly infectious is a really significant problem.
Okay, well, we are just getting warmed up. We have a lot more to talk about the future of healthcare in just a minute and the Sarasota Institute. But first, a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second half hour of our broadcast tonight. We are digging deeper into the future of healthcare, and we want to welcome back futurist speaker David Houle. We were just talking a little bit about the COVID-19 virus
right.
in the break and the last segment as well. We were talking a little bit about just the unknown about the coronavirus. Talk to me a little bit about your perspective as a futurist in regards to the coronavirus.
So as I said, that over the last 15 years, it's a consistent question I get, what about pandemics? So I've done a lot of research on it, and one of the things I've been saying for years is the virus we need to worry about is the virus that will be in a carrier and they won't know it for a period of time. And that's what the coronavirus is, the COVID virus, where somebody supposedly up to 2 weeks. So you could be carrying it and not knowing it. So you're getting on airplanes, you're going to conventions, you're going to conferences, you're having a family reunion, whatever that is. And that's the problem with this. The other problem is, part of it is climate change. So the Arctic ice is melting, and there's people who know that the Black Plague from the Middle Ages is buried deep in the tundra, and they fear that the warming of the earth will release those spores. So I think because of the almost 8 billion population, because everybody's traveling a whole lot, and because we have a virus that we don't know we're carriers of, it's something to be highly alarmed about, but it's not. But the alarm will be lessened to the degree that scientists take the lead. There's no speculation. Here's what you do. Here's what you know. And the problem with, as we know about antibiotics, there's resistant bacteria to antibiotics. The same thing is happening with the flu virus. What's the Tamiflu is perceived no longer workable. So we need to come up with new things constantly. Sure. And the problem is it takes a long time to figure it out. You and I were talking over the break. One of the things that occurred to me as I'm looking as a futurist is, what do we know? We know that children under 12 usually aren't getting sick. So it would seem to me that the first step would be, why is it that children aren't dying and older people are? And maybe that's the beginning of the solution. You always go to the population that seems to be resistant to the strain and see why they're resistant. So I hope somebody's doing that.
Sure. Switching gears a little bit, we could talk about that, coronavirus all night long, especially in the midst of what we're dealing with. But switching gears to the future of healthcare and medicine, you wrote a book 10 years ago. What are the differences in healthcare from 10 years ago to where we are now, and what are the similarities? Well,
that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this new health age of the 21st Century Symposium. Jonathan Fleece, who's now president of CEO of Tidewell, and I became good friends. We wrote the book, The New Health Age, The Future of Healthcare in America. And we were writing it in 2010. It came out in 2011, so it was before Obamacare, before healthcare reform. And we made a number of predictions. One prediction we pretty much got right was that by 2020, the healthcare community, industry, infrastructure in the United States would be much more electronically connected. You probably may not remember this, but in 2010, you'd go into an office and all the files would be in paper. There was no connectivity. So with the connectivity, with data moving around the planet, fiber optics is the speed of light, with 4G wireless, everything is connected. And so that's one thing. So now the next step in that is we had the breakthrough in the DNA, breaking down DNA. So now healthcare is going to become personalized. So for example, a doctor, there was one study done with early stage breast cancer, and there were 94 women. And of those 94 women, doctors successfully diagnosed 46 of them as having early stage breast cancer. artificial intelligence, which I call technological intelligence, diagnosed 75 of them. So what do you think those 33 women who were in because they take the big data, they go in, a doctor just says, here are your symptoms. Big data has all of those symptoms times 100,000 people who had them and what the results were. So the combination of personalized DNA treatment, say for cancer or something like that, combined with big data and a growing database that is instantaneously accessible, is a transformative stage of healthcare.
Interesting, and all of that will be discussed at the symposium with the Sarasota Institute. And tell me a little bit, we've only got a few more minutes, but what the Sarasota Institute is and what you guys are doing for the community.
I'm one of the 3 co-founders along with Phil Kotler and Jason Voss, and I'm the managing director. And the vision as a futurist is to bring the future to Sarasota. Sarasota Bradenton is a unique place where an inordinate amount of people, accomplished people, intelligent people have come, right? So we want the world to know that about Sarasota. But the basic premise of the Sarasota Institute is to lead in the questioning of the 10 topics. You can find it on our website, sarasotainstitute.global, such as the future of healthcare. We did one on education in January. We're going to do one on the future of capitalism and democracy in April. So these think tank, what is the questions that need to be asked for the 21st century for Sarasota, the United States of America, and the world. And we want to have the Aspen Institute, for example, was formed in 1949. And ironically, I think that's one of the reasons I did this, because it was formed by a man named Walter Pepke, who was a member of the Board of Trustees, University of Chicago. My father was there at the time, and my father worked with Lawrence Kimpton and Mortimer Adler to set up the great books. And my father often joked that the reason I was smart was because Mortimer Adler used to babysit for me. He made a joke out of that. But so I've always admired the Aspen Institute, but it was the great think tank of the last century. The World Economic Forum is a great think tank of this century, but it's winding down. It's run its course. It's 40 years. So I want Sarasota Institute to be in Sarasota, Braden, and to be the 21st century think tank.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, before we go to break, the symposium, have you chosen a date to have that rescheduled?
I'm going to work with Dr. Probstfeld. All of them are at the Neo Performing Arts Center at State College of Florida. So we need to look at the calendar for the open dates. But we will, hopefully you'll have me back and I can announce that and talk about it. But we want everybody who's on it thanked us for canceling this. It was the right decision, and every single person said they'd like to come back.
Okay, and so you guys will post that information on your website.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
Thank
you so much. We want to thank David Houle for joining our roundtable.